Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different because boredom has set in, and I've been following the mini bike scene there for a little bit now, and it's looking like a lot of fun. So today we are actually going to be riding over to Harbor Freight, grabbing one of these 212 engines. I'm also looking into mini bike drag frames, kind of up in the air on that. But I know that I am definitely going to be starting out with the Predator Ghost engine as like a test engine, and then we're going to be building our solid drag engine from there. So let me head over to Harbor Freight and we'll get started.
I wanna be the best in the game, invest in my name. Check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain. I ingest, I retain, assess and I change. Possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints. Money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague. We all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name. All our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be. Living in a time where disease is on every screen. I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering. Negativity is a plague for the mentally weak. No mercy, all I got is working. Never stop searching, never quite so thirsty. I'm toxic and psychotic with this logic, you can't stop it. It's been chronic since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic. Go! To last in the webs I'm weaving, I can change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the cast, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grievance. Put your foot on the gas, no, never stop competing, yeah. I've been doing this, I'm on it. I just wanna be iconic. Sipping on a gin and tonic, got me going off when I'm on this topic, yeah. If I ever play, I want it. You know that I'm always honest. Stay away from those who are toxic. Keep 'em out your face, no way, you don't want it, yeah. Don't try to drain my energy. The enemy is everything. It's mentally, unhealthily spreading like a rare disease, but I won't let it get to me. I don't need your therapy. I can leave a legacy of leading by intensity. Come on, we can fight this. Freedom is priceless. Spread just like a virus. Living in a crisis. Do you feel courageous? Do you seek greatness? Trust me, you can take it. Go on and take your aim. Yeah. Built to last with the webs I'm weaving. I can change the past with all I'm achieving. Got my foot on gas, never stop competing. If you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em. Make mistakes real fast, then you learn how to beat 'em. If you take off the gas, you can see all the healing. If the pain's in the past, move on from the grieving. Put your foot on the gas, no, never stop competing, yeah.
Alright everybody, now that I got this thing completely tore apart, I'm going to go ahead and bag this stuff up so nothing rusts. I'm going to figure out what I'm going to be using, what I'm not going to be using, and wait for this parts deliveries to start rolling in, so stick around. Alright everybody, we are back after 2 weeks of waiting. I have 99% of the parts. The only two pieces I'm missing is the throttle cable and the valve cover, which should be here within the next few hours. But we do have most of the stock parts that I am keeping. Our clear side cover, Arc Racing billet side cover, the Ego 3 3-disc clutch, the Super Ghost, our engine block. But eventually this is going to go in a go-kart, but for now this is going to be the starter engine for the drag build, and I did decide on a frame and I ordered it yesterday, and it's going to be the Go Power Sports Rascal GT. But since I got all this out and I am going to be a little bit more secretive on the second engine, let's get started on this build. All right, everybody, first things first, I did go ahead and clean out the block with some brake cleaner, and I did cover the main bearing with some painter's tape, as well as the push rod holes and the oil drain, which the first thing we are going to be doing is, see that little hole way down in there? That is the first thing we are going to be doing, and that is drilling out the oil drain hole to a 5/16 so the oil could flow a lot better. So let me get doing that. Alright, now that we've cleaned the engine block of any debris or metal shavings or anything like that, I know you guys really can't see it all that great in the video, but that oil drain hole is much better, is definitely going to flow now. But the next thing we are going to be installing is our magnetic drain bolts from Race Pro Quip. So let's go ahead and install those. Snug. Alright, and they do have crush washers. They did come with those, but those magnetic drain bolts will come in handy. So let me go ahead and grab the next part and we'll move on. Next up, we're going to be setting our cam and crank clearance just to make sure. This kit was specifically designed for this engine, but we are just going to check it just to make sure that we don't have to go back at a later time and, you know, cut to the block to see if we can get this thing to fit. We're just going to go ahead and do it now. So let's get started on that. First thing we're going to do is, I'm skipping a step here. I am going to take a little assembly lube and I am going to put on the bearing right here because I did clean it out with some brake cleaner earlier. So let's go ahead and lube that up a little bit. Next thing we are going to do is go ahead and take our crank and we're going to set it down in there, and we are going to be looking for the timing dot, which I don't know if you can see it there or not, but it is right there. So next thing we're going to be doing is taking the cam. I'm going to add a little assembly lube on this as well, and our timing dot is right there. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and try and line these up. Oh, I'm a tooth off right there. Oh. All right. So if you can see it, I went ahead and lined up the two dots. And we're going to take our alignment tool. We're going to drop in one dowel pin. If I can get it to go in there. There we go. And then we're just going to take our alignment tool from, this is from OMB Warehouse. So we're going to go ahead and take that and slide that on there and set two bolts in it. I do like it this way because you can see everything through this thing versus, like, I've seen people do it where they've cut the stock side cover in half. I mean, that's nice and all, but I like this one because you can, it's clear, it's made of acrylic, it's pretty, seems like it's pretty strong, and everything is there. But next thing we're going to do is just roll our crank. Let me change the angle here, but as you can see with the alignment tool, everything rolls over. I've got nothing hitting. I was more worried about the cam than anything, but that is nice. So the next thing I am going to do is set up a vise, and we're going to be checking the clearance for the rod. So let me grab that and we'll get started on that. Now that we got our vise all set up, I did go ahead and set up a few things before we get started. I did take the rod bolts out and soak them in a little bit of oil and cut a piece of plastic gauge and write down the torque specs of everything we're going to be needing, and also the clearance, which is 0.02 of an inch to 0.04 of an inch, and the red plastic gauge goes from 0.02 of an inch to 0.06 of an inch. We set out our bearings and our crank, And then we are going to be starting off at 60 inch-pounds, moving up 15 inch-pounds until we hit 150 inch-pounds on this. So let me go ahead and set this up, and we'll get started on that. Alright, I did go ahead and speed this up. We are installing the bearings with them flush and in the grooves. The next thing I did was go ahead and torque down everything to the specs I had given in the instructions, and did end up with a crush of a little over 3/1000ths of an inch, which still falls in spec, so we are going to run with it. And as soon as I'm done this, we're going to go ahead and dress the piston. Alright, now that we knocked the rod clearance out of the way, we are going to be dressing our piston, and I did set the rings out in order that they go in, which would be scraper, oil ring, scraper, compression rings. And when you do this, you always want to make sure that your writing is facing upwards when you do that. But we're going to go ahead and start with the oil ring. I am going to put that one on there first. And we're going to set that on there. The next one we're going to be installing is our scraper ring, which I laid the pliers out just in case I needed them, but I highly doubt I will. And like I said, one ring goes at the top of the oil ring and one ring goes at the bottom. So that ended up on the top of that. So the next one is going to go on the bottom of it. So let me go ahead and fast forward this, and then we'll get on to putting the clips in. Now that we got all the rings on, you do want to make sure that all your ring gaps, none of them are actually lined up. So you want to set them in different positions all over the piston. But the next thing we are going to install is the clip. These things are kind of a pain in the butt, but now that, push one in. If I can get this in without launching this thing across the shop, that'd be wonderful. So let me go ahead and put that in there. Alright. Alright. Now that we got that in there, we are going to go ahead and install our piston and wrist pin to the rod. So when you do this, there is a, your marks on there, and your dipper is always going to go down, and there is a marking on the piston that always goes towards the bottom. So now that we got that, we're going to go ahead and take a little assembly lube and put on the inside of our rod. We're going to go ahead and smear that around a little bit. Little assembly lube. And we're going to go ahead and take that, and since our C-clip is on that side, remember, that marking goes down with the dipper. We're going to go ahead and then, let me go ahead and put some assembly lube on that. And let's see if I can smear that up out and about. There we go. Alright, now that we got that on there, we're going to go ahead and slide it into our piston, into our rod. Trying to do this so you guys can see it, and it's got the clip stopping it. So the next thing we are going to do, and I'm going to clean a little bit out of that my way, is we're going to take our next clip and put it in place and lock that pin into place. If I can do this one without launching it into outer space here. There we go. Now that that's all done, we're going to go ahead and install our ring compressor. And tighten that down. And now that that's it, let me go ahead and wipe my hands up here, and we'll get starting to assemble the block. As you can see, I did have to take it back out of the ring compressor to add assembly lube. That was my mistake for forgetting it. So the next thing we are going to do is go ahead and add a generous amount to the cylinder walls and get that nice and lubed up. All right. So now that we got that, we're going to go ahead and check our markings, which there's a mark there, and your mark on the bottom of your piston. And I am going to start it this way and weasel that in, and then go ahead and spin this thing into the cylinder as far as I could get this thing to go, and make sure that our mark is at the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and take a hammer and knock that down in there a little bit, and take our hammer and install our piston into there. Next thing we're going to do is bring our I might have to bring that out just a little bit. All right, there we go, top dead center. So the next thing we're going to have to do, I might have to come down. There we go. So now that we got this down in there, we are going to go ahead and repeat the cycle of putting the end cap back on to check our clearance with the top of the block wall. So let me go ahead and torque this down, and we'll go ahead and get to that. All right, everybody, now that I got this thing all torqued up and lubed up, and I've already spun this over before I started the camera, and I thought for sure that at the highest peak, I don't know if you can see up in there, that this thing was going to hit, but this thing is absolutely clear of anything. So that makes my life a little bit easier on the build, because now I don't have to take the crank cap back off and grind nothing out. So we can continue on with the build. So let me grab a drink of water real quick, because it's hot as hell in this garage, and we'll keep on rolling. Well, not having to grind the case at all definitely made this build a hell of a lot easier. So the next thing we're going to install is the lifters. We'll go ahead and stick one there. Add a little assembly lube. I'm going to grab the next one. We're going to a little assembly lube and stick the lifters up in there. And now we're going to take our cam and add a little assembly lube, and we're going to once again set our timing to if I spin this around over here. All right, there we go. To top dead center. And there's our mark. So we're going to go ahead and drop this down in there. If I can get everything to go into place. Oop. There we go. All right. There you go. Now that everything is at top dead center, let me go ahead and grab the billet side cover, and we'll get started on that. Let's go ahead and flip this over and start off by installing our seal. Get that nice and flush and in there as far as we can get it. All right, now that that is in there nice and flush, we're going to go ahead and flip her over. And since these bearings are kind of dry, I am going to add a little bit of assembly lube. Let me go ahead one side, and then I'm going to go ahead and drop that bad boy in there. I did get a socket here to kind of help guide the way, but let's go ahead and get that in there. All right, there's one. We're gonna go ahead and add some assembly lube. And now we're gonna do our next one. We're gonna add some more assembly lube. We're gonna drop that in there. And we're gonna take our socket and just kinda tap her home. All right. Now that we got that, we're gonna add assembly lube to the other side. Now, the question is, I do have the engine at top dead center, and after talking to a bunch of people at the racetrack, they told me the best thing I could do with this cover to get in the ballpark is to add 2 thick and 1 shims to try and get as close to the 10,000ths end play as possible. So we're going to go ahead and take their word on it, and we're going to go ahead and drop these bad boys on there. I'm going to go ahead and add a little assembly lube just to be sure. But that's, like I said, I talked to them guys for a while, and they said they've been building engines for a long time, and that should get me around my 10,000ths of end play. So add a little more assembly lube. Go ahead and add some in the cam hole. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and slide that bad boy on there. I did already put the dowel pins in there. And now that we got that, let's go ahead and get our rubber mallet and tap this boy home. Alright, now that that is on there and flush, I am going to go ahead and take 2 of these, and I am going to go ahead and run them in, and we're going to go ahead and torque them till I think it is 18 foot-pounds on the side cover. So that's one. Let me go ahead and grab my torque wrench here, fire this bad boy up. All right, 18 foot-pounds. I'm going to go ahead and take that side cover back off. But let's go ahead and drop it on its side here. And, all right. And if I get the end play I am desiring, I am going to go ahead and add the rest of the bolts and then replace the, put the beauty rings on these bolts. So 18 foot-pounds is what we're looking for. So let me go ahead and speed this up, and then we'll be right back. Alright, got that torque down to 18 foot-pounds, and I absolutely have what feels to be no end play. But I also didn't add the paper gasket, which is actually going to pull this away. So I have a feeling that when I do go to do it, we don't want to be too tight because we don't want to crush the bearings. But by the time I put that cover on, I should be at, you know, my 10,000ths, because that gasket's actually pretty thick. So let me go ahead and take this back off, and then we'll come right back. Alright, now that I've removed the cover again, I just don't want to eat up the video with me putting it together, taking it apart. We are going to go ahead and add our paper gasket, and also the next thing we are going to be doing, you see the dowel pins are still in there, but we did keep our shims here. Let me move this back a little bit. We did keep our 2 thick and 1 thin shim, and then we've added our paper gasket. Now I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the side cover, and hopefully I don't have to take this thing back apart again. Alright, so now that we've gone ahead and buttoned that up, let's go ahead and put our screws back in again. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward once again, and then we'll be right back. Alright, now that I've torqued down the side cover, and we did keep the 2 large and 1 small shim, and just as I suspected, after using the paper gasket, we have enough end play to the point where I feel like that is nice and safe. So let's go ahead and finish putting on the bolts and the nice collars. So I'm going to speed through that, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, now that we got that all bolted up, torqued up, the only thing left to do from here is to start tearing down the head. So let me grab that, and we'll be right back. Alright everybody, now that we got the bottom half of the block all finished up, we're going to start working on the head. I did go ahead and remove the intake and exhaust studs, just double nut jam them and take them out. But the next thing we are going to be doing is removing the valves, the springs, and the seats and all that stuff like that, and then figure out where we're going to go from there. So let's go ahead and get started on that. Now that we got the head fully disassembled, we are going to be installing our stainless steel valves, our built aluminum valve retainers, our 26-pound valve springs, the lash caps and the keepers, and don't forget the seal. When I started this video, I had every intention on porting and polishing this head and taking away those edges and getting this all nice and shined up. That's the reason I did remove the exhaust and the intake studs, is so I could get those out of my way. But for the life of me, I can't find my stones or my Dremel. So that's definitely going to be a video for another day. But I will end up doing it eventually. I just got to find my stuff. But in the meantime, we are going to have to go ahead and lap our valves. So let me go ahead and set up this camera, and we'll get started on that. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and stick our suction cup on our valve and try and center this thing the best we possibly can. A lot of times these things don't like to stick, and then we're going to go ahead and add a generous amount of valve grinding compound to the valve itself. And I like to use just a little bit of assembly lube to stop from friction. And we are going to be starting with the exhaust side, and you can go ahead and hear that sound, and we're going to go ahead and continue to go back and forth with this, and then tap it in and out until you hear the tone of that change. Okay, now that we got the valves nice and lapped up, I don't know if you guys can see that in the video, but that is nice. So the first thing I am going to do is go ahead and add a little bit of assembly lube to this valve. And we are going to be doing this. We're going to go ahead and drop that right on in there. There's so many different ways you could do it. I'm going to go ahead and do a rag. It just stops the valve from dropping down in there. The next thing we are going to be doing is taking our seal and dropping our seal down. Next thing is our 26-pound valve spring. And I went ahead and added the keepers into the retainer. So we're going to go ahead and drop that on there. And then the next thing I am going to do is go ahead and use part of the other tool to drop this down on there, if it goes. So that's one side. The other side popped out on me. So I'll go ahead and push that down. And I don't know if you can see it, but now our valve is in there nice and tight. So we'll go ahead and do this other side. Go ahead, we're going to add a little assembly lube. Drop the valve down in there. Use our rag. We're going to take our keeper and we're going to go ahead and just go ahead and push down. Everything should most of the time drop into place, but doesn't always work out that way. One keeper's still up. So we'll go ahead and push down. Did it take it? No, it did not take it. Huh. They actually make a tool for this. I don't have it. I think they're like 20 bucks or whatever on Amazon. This one's not wanting to go. And I'm trying not to booger up my nice purdy retainers. Shit. Oh. Alright. So I've told you guys in the past I don't cut out none of the fat. So if you see me struggling with something, it's because I'm struggling with it. So we'll go ahead and drop that down in there. Come on, bitch, go in there. There it goes. Alright, now that we got those down in there, they are locked in place. We're going to go ahead and add a little assembly lube on top of these valves and place our lash caps. So now that the head's all done, let's go ahead and attach this to the block. Next, we're going to install our dowel pins, head gasket, our head, if I can get it to line up here, and we are going to install our bolts and torque them to 20 foot-pounds. So let me screw these in and we'll be right back. Alright everybody, just hit a stopping point with this because I checked the time and it is 3 a.m. and I thought I was going to have this whole thing done in the night, but I was sadly mistaken because I do still have an entire box of parts left to put on this thing. But let's take a quick peek at how far we got so far, and I am going to have to follow up with this and start building the rest of this tomorrow. So next week, same time, same place, I'm going to drop the other video for the rest of the engine build and have this thing up and running. But I really do appreciate you guys sticking around. So do me a favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe and share, and I'll see you next week with this thing up and running. So you guys take it easy. I'll see you in the next video.